All right. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am your host, Christopher McFarland. You are watching Fast Politics live in your home. I'm happy to be back. I feel like it's been far too long since I've been with you. It's good to see you. I've missed you. So tonight we have a really fun show for you in store. I'm very excited. We've got a brand new segment called Bang Down, Flip It, and Reverse It with our lovely co-host Danielle Flanagan. Before we get to that, though, we have some fun, cool, interesting things at the beginning. I'm not a stand-up comedian, but in the interest of keeping it fresh and keeping it real, I will be doing a little rant here at the beginning of the episode, and I'm looking forward to performing that for you. It's about someone I didn't think I was ever going to address on television again. I thought we covered this button last week with Pat Robertson, but he's back in the news again. So it's going to have to be addressed. So we're going to do a little rant. We're going to go through our fast sheet as usual. And the segment Bang Down, Flip It, and Reverse It is going to be going through all those issues in reverse through the prism of Danielle Flanagan. So I look forward to doing that. Stay with me. First up on the docket then is this guy. Doesn't he just look like a kindly old gentleman? Well, he's not. And so to begin, I'd like to start off with a little song. This is dedicated to Pat Robertson. You are so evil, oh Pat Robertson. You spread lies and fear and hatred everywhere you go. You are an agent of the Dark Lord. And in the end, I know you want to see the whole planet burn. Your goal is Armageddon, and it's your desire. But we will thwart you because we're good. And we're calling you out on all the crap you're doing because you have tipped your cards. And I'm a poker player, and now I see that you're evil. I was never sure that you worked for Satan until this past week when you said Donald Trump was a Christian. And now I know that since you weren't even there, you are a deceiver, a liar, and a chump. But there's a silver lining to this evil story. In the end, when you're burning in hell, I believe you will have fun. Sucking on the toes of and licking the fingers of the Dark Lord Beelzebub. Pat Robertson, that's special for you. I literally just made that up on the spot. That is what we call improv musicality. And I hope that you play that over. You know, I believe actually that you love yourself so much, and you probably Google search yourself, you actually are eventually going to see this. And so I look forward to that day. But this is what I need to talk about today. Pat Robertson, I thought that I covered you a couple of weeks ago when you discovered the conspiracy going on in the Democratic Party when rival gangs, essentially, the Muslims and the gays, were duking it out in Orlando, or so was your interpretation. And your solution, your very non-Christian solution, by the way, was that we should just kill one another. That can't be found in the Bible, by the way. Even the darkest interpretation of an eye for an eye, no one in the right mind, in the right Christian mind, would ever assume that. You are a divider. Your agenda, your goal is to divide and pull this country apart. And I'm calling you out on it. But particularly this week because you did something that really, you know, I always had a thread of doubt that maybe you were just easily beguiled. Maybe you were just senile. Maybe there was just a little bit of dementia that was setting in. But here's the deal. You weren't even present. You weren't even present when Donald Trump supposedly gave his heart to Jesus. Someone else was there. But you are the one that is now championing that because you are the one with all the followers. You reach 360 million people in 38 countries around the world. So your darkness that you spread isn't even just contained inside the United States of America. It is a global reach of darkness. And I'm calling you out on it. Because I genuinely believe, I don't believe that you're the Antichrist. I mean, honestly, I think the Antichrist is going to be a little better looking. But you were definitely working for the bad guy. And I'm hoping that this is the end. I'm hoping that I don't need to do any more rants about Pat Roberts. I'm honestly tired of talking about you. So please, stay out of the news. Don't get involved in politics. And that's all I have to say. Thus concludes both the musical portion and the rant portion of tonight's episode. All right. Now, lest you fear that all Christians are bad, because we're not. I'm a Christian. I go to church. I have a great church. I have an amazing pastor, an amazing community of people who are all about inclusion, bringing community together. I want you to know that there's some really good people out there. I mentioned this guy last week. His name is John Pavlovitz. And what I want to do this week is actually read his full letter on the air. I was going to just read an excerpt of it last week, but this week I think it deserves an entire reading because of Pat Robertson's efforts. Here we go. Dear offended Christians. And essentially what is he doing? He's responding to all those Christians who feel outraged by the liberal leanings and the progressive dimension going on in society. Dear offended Christian, I'm terribly sorry that your feelings are hurt again. I feel badly about it. None of us likes to be criticized, so I totally get it. I know I've said some pretty hard words to you recently, and maybe I've been somewhat less than cheery in my delivery, but that happens when you're tired. And I'm really tired. I am tired of hearing you telling gay people that they can simultaneously be both gay and Christian. I'm tired of having to explain what transgender means to adult Christian people who I'm quite sure have internet access and should know better by now that it ain't a guy in a dress. I'm tired of arrogant pulpit bullies like Pat Robertson. I'm inserting that. Bullies who believe they're entitled to tell people where they can pee and who they can marry and whether they really love Jesus or not. I'm tired of you being more outraged by red coffee cups and department store restrooms than by poverty and racism and gun violence and our crumbling school system. I'm tired of gay people being accused of the kind of predatory behavior that straight men have been exhibiting since, well, the man cave was an actual cave. I'm tired of reminding you that the number of times Jesus spoke about gender identity and sexual orientation in the Gospels is exactly 0. I'm tired of having to explain to people that although I am a Christian, that I'm not that type of Christian. The kind that is generous with damnation and stingy with grace. I'm tired of LGBTQ teens cutting their forearms and jumping out buildings because they're told by their church friends that God hates them, because their Christian parents told them, because their Christian pastors told them. I'm tired of followers of Jesus who don't seem interested in cracking open a book to see what we've learned about the brain and the body in 2,000 years, or to realize that gender identity and sexual orientation don't equal the word homosexuality in the Bible. I'm tired of all the time I've had to spend undoing the damage the church has done to queer kids and their families. I'm tired of religious folk who seem to want small government everywhere except the bedroom and the bathroom. I'm tired of scientific ignorance being treated as if it's a Christian virtue. I'm tired of hearing you preach verbatim the gospel of Fox News. And I'm tired of high-profile pastors blaming gay people for 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, and ISIS and child obesity. You know, I want to go on. This letter is really long. I'm just now realizing. But listen, check it out. It's the Good Men Project. Really, really thoughtful commentary, especially coming from a Christian pastor speaking out in issues, identifying the fact that just because you are a Christian does not mean that you are aligned with the right. Okay, so let's jump ahead. In the interest of time, we've got a lot to cover, and we've got to move quickly. The next thing that I want to talk about is dog whistles. We talked about what political dog whistles were last week, right? That's when a certain series of words or phrases or coded words are put together that draw out a specific portion of the electorate. And in this case, we're talking specifically about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been putting out a lot of very specific dog whistles focused on the white supremacist community. Excuse the doorbell, I have friends coming over later, we're gonna hang out. Focusing on the racist, white supremacist community in America. So let's look at this. This is the tweet that Donald Trump sent out. Look at that. It doesn't take a genius to identify that six-pointed star. I mean, it stands out to everybody. Why is that a six-pointed star? Now, Donald Trump is trying to pretend that that was just a sheriff's badge. It's just a sheriff's badge. He just thinks of Hillary as a sheriff, I suppose. It doesn't even make sense, right? It's not even logical given how much he hates her. But then also juxtaposed with the imagery of the dollar bills, the pursed lips, it's very clearly an anti-Semitic statement. I don't think that I'm being overly sensitive here. And to the point of that being a sheriff's badge, I was a kid with a sheriff's badge. I like to pretend that I was one. And my sheriff's badge had little balls at the end of each of the star points. So that is definitely not a sheriff's badge. All right. that segment, by the way, what we're talking about right now, I think this is going to have to be a recurring segment, just called the dog whistle segment, because I feel like every week he's going to give us a little blessing, something to talk about. Okay, what are we going to go to next? All right, next, okay. Amazing things are happening right now. So in 2008, President Obama won North Carolina by less than a point. And then in 2012, he lost it by 2 points to Mitt Romney. North Carolina was previously never a swing state, but it very much is now. And the reason why is because the African American community is highly politically engaged in the wake of President Obama. I am very curious to see what happens now in 2016 with Hillary Clinton running against Donald Trump, because it is my belief that this state could very definitely go blue. But it's going to depend upon the activity, the political activism of the community contained therein. So we'll see what happens there. I'm optimistic about it. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later with Danielle. Okay. Let's talk about now. Oh, guys, what is this? I wanted to talk about Chris Christie's mentor, David Sampson. That is an awful picture of Chris Christie. Oh my God. This is another, is that a real picture of Chris? No, he's not big enough to sit on the bridge, guys. That doesn't even make sense. I don't know how that happened. I'm so sorry. Okay, this guy, David Sampson. This is David Sampson. This is Chris Christie's mentor, and the reason we're talking about him this week, it may seem like a very side issue relative to the national politics that we often discuss, but David Sampson is a mentor, and what's really important about him this week is that he has accepted a felony charge in the wake of the Bridgegate scandal. This has so many complicated elements to it. I don't even know if I can do justice to it in just a few seconds here on our show. But the most important thing to know is that David Sampson is not cooperating with the government. He's taking the felony charge, but he's not cooperating. What does that mean? That means he's not going to flip on Chris Christie. And what does that mean? That means that he probably knows something and he's not going to tell. So he's going to take the felony charge and basically take the fall, which means prosecutors are on their own to try to prove the case that Chris Christie knew what he was doing. Why is this relevant? Why am I even talking about it? Well, as all of the vice presidential candidates for Donald Trump sort of fall by the wayside, and as recently as last night, Donald Trump was celebrating and praising Saddam Hussein. So all these GOP leaders understandably keep trying to distance themselves from him. Chris Christie is one of the few people, I'm sorry, I've got to put this awful picture back up, but Chris Christie, this guy, he's one of the few people that I think would actually still stand with Donald Trump. And so it becomes relevant that people are taking the fall for him in the wake of Bridgegate. Okay, let's move on. We'll talk about this again later. This guy, all right. So it looks like Hillary won't be charged. This is FBI Director James Comey. And we learned today that the CIA has also said they are definitely not prosecuting Hillary Clinton. So this is official. There will be no charges. That is done. Loretta has spoken on this. Loretta Lynch. But James Comey, why am I talking about him? Well, James Comey led the forefront in opposition to Hillary Clinton 20 years ago and was doggedly pursuing her in the Whitewater scandal. So the fact that he has exonerated her of criminal charges is actually highly notable, especially given the dark cloud that was put over events recently when Bill Clinton, with all of his political savvy, decided to get off his plane and go talk to Loretta. It was an awful political decision, grant you. I hate that he did it. I wish he hadn't. It cast a dark cloud. But now that this gentleman who has no love for Hillary Clinton, least of all Bill Clinton, has actually exonerated her of criminal wrongdoing. And it all comes down to intent. There's been a lot of email postings recently about, this guy or that guy got sentenced to this or that. There was a significant difference, and that's what I want you to understand. Those people had intent. As they pursued and investigated both Hillary and all of her support staff, they discovered that there was clearly no malicious intent. Although there may have been a transmission of top secret emails, and in fact there were quite a few threads. And in fact, that's something I need greater clarification about, because Hillary's been saying for a year that she didn't send anything that was classified at the time. We're going to talk about that more later as well. But the most important thing is there was no intent. Whatever was done through carelessness, and therefore not prosecutable. Okay. Next, I got to talk about Chris Stevens. His family was in the news. You know, there have been 8 investigations into Hillary Clinton in the wake of Benghazi. The only thing they were able to discover after spending $7 million in those 8 investigations was that she sent a couple of emails that were top secret. That's all they were able to discover. But throughout this entire time, they keep pulling up Ambassador Chris Stevens, who was killed in Benghazi, and saying that you know, she should pay for her crimes, and that Hillary's responsible for his death. And Chris Stevens' family actually came out this week and said, please stop saying that. Chris Stevens knew what he was getting into. He knew he was in a dangerous position, and this responsibility and this burden falls not on the shoulders of Hillary Clinton, but upon Congress, who didn't give the funding that they needed for the security services and forces. All right. So what we're going to do now, this is World Wrestling Federation wrestler John Cena. We're going to play a little video that he put out. We're going to talk about it on the other side, and when we come back, we'll be joined by our co-host today, Danielle Flanagan, in our next segment called Bang Down, Flip It, and Reverse It. So, without further ado, enjoy John Cena.
Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. We know that labels don't devalue us, they help define us, keeping us dialed into our cultures and our beliefs and who we are as Americans. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? I mean, it's stitched into the stars and stripes of this country. From the Constitution to Gettysburg, to our motto, E pluribus unum, from many, one. It's even in our country's name, the United States. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? So let's try this one more time. Close your eyes.
Wow. Okay, so thank you for joining me, Danielle. Good to have you on the show again. So we just watched a World Wrestling Federation wrestler talk about patriotism and really break down a lot of complex issues that are being discussed in the electorate right now in the wake of this presidential election. The reason I wanted to play that was not just because he's really handsome or because those words are really powerful, but because I thought, as a juxtaposition to what we hear from Donald Trump, it's a little shocking to hear Donald Trump next to a World Wrestling Federation wrestler, and the wrestler sounds better.
Right.
I'm curious. I'm just curious.
Not that we're stereotyping the wrestlers as meatheads.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Not that wrestlers are all meatheads.
Yeah,
I'm sure
they're all on steroids and
right.
meatheads. Yeah, but they can be intelligent and articulate.
And I love The Rock. I think he's he's awesome.
Right.
You expect that a presidential candidate is probably going to be a little bit better than someone who's...
I think we're spoiled because we've had Barack Obama for, 2 terms, and we have a highly articulate, very intelligent, leader of the free world, and he does set a standard, a bar of excellence. And so it is challenging when we have someone that has been documented as having a 4th grade vocabulary. And that's been repeated throughout the
media.
We're
talking about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. And so I love John Cena. I mean, I've been following him because I've been a fan of WWE since I was a kid as well.
Wow.
Too. Yeah, I mean... Yeah.
I'm learning with you, ladies and gentlemen. This is amazing.
It's amazing, and I think it's a huge turn for John Cena, too, because just, 4 months ago, he was saying, oh, that's just Donald just being a blowhard. Because he made those comments in public as well, too. I think TMZ was interviewing him. It's like, oh, that's just Donald being Donald. Well, Donald's changed in those 4 months, and he's gotten a bigger platform and more visibility, and he's become...
And sharper edges to his dog whistles. They've become a little...
Yeah, I think it's struggle because you see someone who's vapid, who's vacuous, who's self-absorbed, and he can't be he is being authentic. Let's just be frank about it. He's being authentically him, whether he has a teleprompter or not.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, he absolutely is. If it was my choice for a fantasy cabinet, if we were doing it, it'd be like John Cena, Brock Lesnar, The Rock, Charlotte, the Bella twins. Those would be great people to have as a cabinet, right?
This lady is like the brains of our operation, so it's kind of hilarious that she's referring to wrestlers as the future cabinet of
Well,
the
that
free
is
world.
pretty dope, though. I mean,
Yeah.
think about sending out, Brock Lesnar out as the Secretary of Defense.
I love it.
Did you see John Cena when he smashed the podium on Jimmy Kimmel?
I did not.
You
no.
have to go on YouTube, folks. You've got to see this. He smashes the podium. He's promoting Jimmy Kimmel as Vice President of the United States.
Okay.
And he picks up the podium and smashes epic. It's totally
love
worth
it.
surfing on YouTube because sometimes you fall on YouTube, you don't come out.
So, do you think that Donald could plausibly fake something like this?
Absolutely not. With
Can't
or
even fake
without
it.
a prompter. No, he couldn't.
Do you, assuming you, do you feel like John Cena was 1, 2, 3, or 4 times more likable?
100 times more likable,
Yeah.
and because we've grown up with him. Like
Yeah.
I've grown up with John Cena, and also the fact that we know John Cena's personal background. His brother is gay, and his brother's partner is an African American man.
Wow.
So
Actually, I didn't know that. That's
I mean,
fascinating.
he's standing on a pedestal or a podium and a platform that's speaking to his core and his family.
Yeah.
His family's diverse.
Yeah.
LGBT
That's
and African
that's
American.
great.
So his brother's married.
I want to be sensitive to time. Okay, now we're going to go in reverse. I want to talk about, so going back to Chris Stevens, now, is there a double standard going on with Bush versus the embassy failures under President Obama? President Obama, we've had Benghazi, but when you look at all of these, and hopefully you can see these at home,
1, 2, 3, 4.
over 60 deaths because of embassy security failures. And I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm not trying to say this was a huge failing of George W.
Right.
Bush. I'm bringing it up because it is a reality of the world we live in.
It is, and it is a double standard. I like the way that you posed the question. There was 13 of these incidents during his administration, and 60 people died. Yet again, there was no outrage about
Right.
this. You go farther back to what was it, Reagan? Reagan had like 11 attacks, like 94 people died under his administration. Again, no one was up in arms. Reagan didn't even stop his campaign when the Beirut embassy was attacked for the
Bombed.
third
Yeah.
time. He didn't even stop. So yes, there is a double standard. You have one Benghazi. One in this entire administration. On top of that, you look backwards in time to 2011, 2012, and the GOP decided to cut $450 million out of Obama's budget for embassy security. They intentionally cut $450 million. So
Almost setting him up for
setting up
failure in
for
a way.
failure. So you have a fraction of the resources available, and he has a fraction of the damage that was caused by jihadi insurgency in these countries. So 11 under Reagan, 13 under Bush, 1 under Obama, and then you have the vilification of this, of Hillary Clinton over this as well too. And I love that the family said back off.
Yeah, I do
at
too.
CFU on it.
Yeah.
I love that. I
Me
love that.
too. Me too.
So-
Okay, moving on. Want to talk about, I know you're a big Bernie supporter, so I want to talk about how you feel about the fact that Hillary won't be charged.
I thought that was, I watched this morning bright and early. I woke up when I saw your email, and then all of a sudden TMZ came on as well too, and I have them set on because it's such great news. I love Harvey Levin. And I watched Harvey.
We get our news from every
yeah,
source.
we all over the place. I love Harvey, what he said too. Is like, I was disappointed in the sense that the guy right now that did her investigation also was, like you said, for the Whitewater investigation. And he let her go then too, and there was so much dirt that was gone on her. They didn't get charged in any of the Whitewater stuff, any of the double dealing.
But he was fiercely in pursuit of her
He
in
was in
Whitewater.
pursuit of her in Whitewater and didn't charge her. And then again, they're in pursuit of her now, 800 some hours.
Do you feel like that takes away from his credibility though? Because see, I
I
thought
think he's like Harvey said, he's an honest man and he was doing his best. But at the same time, I thought the comment that you made earlier was there was no intent. You don't have to have intent. You have to have negligence. She was negligent. And so she was negligent with those emails. I've written people up at my job for negligence. They weren't intentional. I have employees, I had a $500 million loan portfolio. They weren't intentional in leaving their PCs unlocked. But we have regulations in our department under the Patriot Act and other laws that say they can't walk away from their laptop without locking it, or their PC without locking it. You can't be negligent. She was negligent, and we know it.
And that is something I want to get more answers to. I feel like Hillary has spent the past year telling us that she didn't send or receive emails that were marked classified at the time.
And then she clearly said she did, and then the classifications have changed. Some classifications of the emails changed, especially on 7 streams of her email streams. They changed after the fact. but all the material was sensitive. And on top of that, she used this private email server in hostile nations. And we saw the guy who already hacked it and released all that information. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to hack that information. So yes, it was negligent. And she didn't have to be intentional, but there was negligence. I think he tap danced around it by using buzzwords of carelessness instead of just flat out calling it negligence.
All right. I'm going to let that one, I'm going to move on from that one. I feel like I can't win on that. But do you, I feel like Bernie was holding on to this, though, as the hope that she would get knocked out and then he could come. So that's why I wanted to bring this up for you.
Well, I mean, he's kind of already said that he's going to vote for her. And then the president's already endorsed her. So we could see something pop up, but no one's really having the dialogue. We aren't really either having the dialogue about a third or fourth party popping up.
Right.
There's more spin around Gary Johnson than there was before. So
right. He's at like 10 to 12% in the polls.
Yeah, who's to say? Yeah.
Okay. Let's now go back to Chris Christie, David Sampson. David Sampson's accepting a felony charge. Chris Christie might squeeze out of any charges as a result of this. The New York Observer, which is owned and operated by Donald Trump's Jewish son-in-law, married to his daughter, so Jared Kushner has just reported that Christie is catching a break here. There's so many weird threads weaving into this.
Right.
He prosecuted Donald Trump's son-in-law's father. There's so many strange, weird dynamics going on here that I feel like there's literally no way for us to even draw a conclusion. Right. As smart as we are, we just don't have enough pieces to the jigsaw puzzle.
And the conclusion that we can make is what I think Trump says all the time, and kudos to him. He's saying the system's rigged. Yes, the system's rigged.
In your favor.
In your favor. It's rigged in the favor of the 1%, and it's not rigged in the favor of the rest of us.
Right.
Because if this happened to any other Joe Schmo on the street, you, I, or anyone in the control room or outside here, you know, in the Hollywood, it wouldn't be the same story. And we see it all the time.
Boom. Back to North Carolina. Okay, North Carolina could legitimately go blue this time. What do you think in terms of African American political activism? Will it remain energized in 2016? If so, why? If not, why not? What are your feelings? What are your instincts?
I think, honestly, it probably will remain energized, and I think the fear of the Republican Party 3 years ago was when they started gerrymandering, and then they got nailed for gerrymandering these districts.
Yeah.
And then that got repealed backwards because they were being hyper-partisan about it. They know the value of minority votes. And then to basically put in voter ID laws, restriction laws, and move voter polls a quarter-mile minimum away from black voters' homes, or for white voters it was half a block away.
Right.
If this state is, because
this was one of the worst
purple
examples
right now, but if it leans blue, Virginia will go blue too. And so there is a value in minority votes.
And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up was because there are basically 8 swing states. Hillary only needs to win 1. Donald needs to sweep them all. And this is the one I think that she's going to win. Okay,
Absolutely.
So we're in tandem on this. I know we've only got a few seconds left. I just want to address this tweet.
This is the results of Donald having small hands, so he can't draw. His circles come out like Stars of David, so his little tiny hands can't draw.
Well done, Danny Flannery. I also want to just on the circle, you can actually see the point of this. He actually just put the circle.
Get it out. And then he pulled this from a website that is a hate-mongering website. How many times are you going to pull stuff from hate-mongering websites and call it an accident?
Thank you. Okay, I feel like we've come to the very end. I just want to flash the credits up here on the screen and thank the amazing team here. Matt Schneider, my amazing executive producer, Danny Flannery, our co-host, Anthony Patton, Duncan Burns, Mia Gonzalez. If it's fast and if it's politics, it is fast politics.